Bryce, how did you find carnivore?
It's kind of a long journey. um, I was 675 pounds in 2018, and the first thing that I came across was actually, I believe, is it Jason Fung, the diet doctor? Right. So I was just sick and tired of being fat, and I had started to notice some swelling in my legs that wasn't there before, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and what I did is I just undertook a 3-day fast out of nowhere, just suddenly. Um, and that was the first step. After that, during those 3 days, you have to do something. I was off work and just trying to focus on that. So during those 3 days, I started learning more about keto. And then during 2018, I did keto because the fasting sucked. It was it's pretty miserable, at least that first go around. I did it several more times after that, but the first go around was really pretty awful. I did keto on and off for a long time, actually. I had a really long stint with it at first. I was really stuck on it. I tried really hard to keep with it, and I got down to 450. So from there, it was a 225-pound drop. Once I got down to 450 pounds, I fell into the trap of thinking maybe I could treat myself again. And more than that, I was working as a pizza delivery guy at Domino's. And that made it much more difficult because if anybody's ever worked there, they might know the leftovers, the mistakes, they all get put on the top rack and employee it becomes employee food. And at first, I would just take the toppings off. The lower carb with the cheese and the sauce, not so bad. Then over time, it got worse. And what was strange was, I guess I had been so good about it for so long that I still lost weight. Um, I lost a significant amount of weight still, even on that. I went down to like 440 again, so another 10 pounds. That lasted about a month. And then after that month was over, the weight spiked. It just spiked out of control. And I went to years of just kind of a depression because I couldn't figure out how to get myself out of it. Just trying to do keto again, not working. Trying to do keto again, not working. And then from about 2019 to 2023, I got up to 586 pounds again. Um, and that was the time I found out about that was, or actually weighed myself was my wedding. Um, God bless my wife because she still loved me the whole time, stuck with me, went through the wedding, and I don't know, she's never faltered. So God bless my wife. I don't know how she dealt with me. I don't know how she deals with me still because I mean, you can see I'm not exactly thin. Uh, After my wedding, I decided again that I was going to try and get this knocked out. I was going to try, and I kept back on keto, kept doing keto. Didn't work for me because the temptation was always there. Every single time, the temptation is there because you're having right there on the edge. You are right there on the edge every time, counting the net carbs, talking about, well, it's like, is it 50 total carbs today or 20 net carbs that I'm having? And then I went five over. It's not that big a deal. And then when you have a bigger mistake, like you accidentally, like legitimately, when somebody hands you something or whatever, and you think, and then you're wrong, and you have a significant uh, increase in your carb count that day, you kind of say, screw it, and just why not? I'll go back to it tomorrow, and then tomorrow turns into a week turns into a month might even turn into 2 months, and that was my life trying to go up and down that roller coaster. And I had a night where I had left the house specifically for the most degrading thing possible is this a sneaky middle of the night meal, just this shame meal in my car. And it was probably my lowest point where I just could not figure out how to convince myself to actually go through with losing the weight. And surprisingly enough, I really didn't have any major health issues. My blood pressure was pretty good. Even I think I was at 5.8, 5.9 at the time. A1C, it wasn't bad. None of it was terribly concerning other than the weight from my doctors. I'd never experienced any symptomatic heart issues, anything like that. And I broke down begging God to stop me. And sorry for those who are non-religious, it's that and such, but this is where my journey went. I begged God to stop me that night as I'm shoving a burger and soda into my mouth. Wasn't even that strong of a believer, but in that moment, I was incredibly sincere. I really, genuinely was just asking the last person I could possibly think of, and the only option I had left because nothing else was working. And 2 or 3 days later, I kind of got an answer. Um, I started having these strange sensations down the right side of my face, and I have chronic eustachian tube dysfunction. I just kind of like piled on issues all at once. It I ended up thinking I was having a stroke and going into the hospital. I've been in and out of the hospital a lot for just mysterious medical issues for the last 2 years. I've had an endoscopy, a colonoscopy, going in for another one to check up. I can't find anything. No blood tests, no heart tests. That they think I have GERD, but they don't see any evidence of damage. I feel the acid reflux. It feels painful, but there's no evidence of damage, and my gastroenterologist doctor can't figure out how to help me with the issues. I've tried the medications. Sometimes they help, but eventually they stop being effective. Um, and I know it might sound cruel to people that, hey, I begged God and then he uh, put a lot of suffering on me, but slowly I stopped being able to eat anything really except for meat. Uh, I can't tolerate things, and the longer it goes on, the longer I can tolerate fewer and fewer things. I used to be able to eat things like a little bit of rice, but then I couldn't do that. It would turn my stomach, make me vomit. Um, I can't have sugar alcohols much. I can tolerate maybe one or two Diet Cokes a day right now, maybe. I try not to. Um, Unfortunately, I'm a really stubborn guy who really, I guess, as much as I say I don't want to be fat, I'm really addicted. And it's a serious struggle, but I genuinely can't eat almost any of that stuff anymore. Um, and, you know, I've heard you talk about the emotional connection to that kind of food and all that. And I have a lot of those memories with my wife and my family and so on. And it hurts a lot of days because, my wife's not carnivore, my family's not carnivore, they're not even keto. I can't really relate when it comes to food anymore. My wife started asking me, "Do you even eat?" Because I'll eat first thing in the morning and it's done. The meal's cooked. It's over. I've had the entirety of my food for the day within about an hour, maybe two. It's a lot of food. Well, not as much as I used to have. It might be a pound and a half to 2 pounds of beef, but otherwise, not much else. Um, Eating's really slowly becoming something that I stopped caring a whole lot about because it's not a lot of joy to it like there used to be. And I think maybe that's for the best. And even though I'm having to go through the suffering, I think that's the only way I'm going back into, I guess, theology again to some degree. I've had to think about it real hard because I suppose I genuinely believe that I got an answer, and I had to make sense of what was happening. That why would I be visited so much suffering? Why couldn't I just lose my desire for it? Just, maybe a case of anhedonia or something. Uh, but it didn't. And the best conclusion I can come up with is this is the only way that I can retain my free will. Um, Otherwise, decisions made for you. Like, this is what I asked for. This is what I got. This is
Right.
probably the best solution.
So, how long has it been now since you kind of started experiencing these problems and really the only thing you can tolerate is the beef?
2 years, but it's not just beef I can tolerate. It's pretty much just meat, chicken, fish. I really like canned fish. Developed a taste for canned fish where I used to turn my nose up at fish all the time. So that's fun. And people say there's not a lot of variety on carnivore, but there's a lot of things you can go out there and find. Not everybody has the ability to go. I live near Houston, and not everybody has the ability to go to some of these. I don't know what to call them, ethnic grocery stores. Could be not just Mexican ones, but they have Greek stores, general Mediterranean ones, Russian stores. We just went to a Russian store and I got some of the best smoked sprats I've ever had in a can for a really nice price, and something called Doctor sausage, which I'm going to try and we'll see if I can tolerate that. I don't know. But it's supposed to be pretty all right meat, but there's a lot of things you can do. I mean, plenty of people come on here and talked about, oh, I have a smoker and I've smoked a lot of meat. Well, yeah, that's something you can really do. And I seem to tolerate a fair amount of smoked meat. If I overdo it, my stomach turns inside out. But yeah, I don't think the carnivore is as lacking in variety as people think, especially if you're somebody who's not like, say, oh, I don't know, Michaela Peterson or that woman from Cyprus you had on the other day. She seems to have a lot of immunoresponse issues, but if you're not super super sensitive, there's a lot of things out there for you that you can enjoy. There's a lot of different tastes. There's a whole lot of different kinds of smoke flavor that, what was it? I remember that quote from Jordan Peterson about someone was teasing him about his water, his salt, and his meat. When you go down to only three things, you can only have those three things. You get damn picky about those three things. So
Um, yeah. So over the last 2 years, what's happened with your health as far as weight and anything else? Are you feeling better overall?
I still have some issues because there's just times where somebody offers you something and you try it and I get an immediate response. Uh, my wife and I did an early Thanksgiving yesterday, and when she was making these jalapeno poppers for the family, I tried just a piece of bacon about that size off the top, and it had a little bit of the filling, and I didn't realize there was jalapenos in the filling. I thought, oh, I'll just sneak this little piece of bacon off the top, it'll be fine. About 30 minutes later, I am nauseous and feeling like I need to lay down for a minute. It's become that bad, but otherwise, I feel pretty good. I have chronic eustachian tube dysfunction. I don't know if you know what that is, where the eustachian tubes, they're inflamed and they want to close up, and mucus gets stuck behind the eardrum. So I have these tubes in my ears. That's actually improved a lot. Um, Especially when I stick well to it. If I stick well to it, I don't have anything that inflames me or turns my stomach. because they're contributing the eustachian tube dysfunction to, excuse me, to the acid reflux. Um, that's actually gotten a lot better. Obviously, you lose 250 pounds now, down to 425, and you can move a lot better. You can breathe a lot better. And I have asthma. I've had asthma for as long as I can remember. I was one of those kids with a dinosaur cough. One of my teachers called it. So that's where I've been with that. I actually have a little paper here. Let me see here. Oh, something else I should mention for people who might be sensitive to kidney stones. You might not even know you have a predilection to kidney stones, but when I was on the keto diet, I had 3 kidney stones because of all the greens. I didn't understand how bad oxalates can be, especially when you're on a keto diet and you're pairing it with cheese. That combination of the extra calcium in your diet and the oxalates, that gave me 3 bad kidney stones. And I really regret that. I stay away from spinach. Stay away from spinach a lot. Um, Another issue I had was at one point when I was at my worst, I was having a lot of bleeding bowel movements. They're painful, frequent, and bloody. And my GI doctor again couldn't figure out anything about it. And that brings me to probably the thing that I'm sure everybody has something, some lie about the carb situation, the plants, something about the normal diet that makes them the angriest. And I'm trying to remain calm, but the fiber lie is the thing I hate the most. With the fiber lie, that made me suffer harder than anything else because even on keto, mm, I had issues. My doctor told me more fiber. I took more fiber. I'm having 30 grams of fiber a day. Increase it. Keep increasing it. Keep increasing it. I had 100 grams of fiber a day. I was going maybe 6 or 7 times a day, and they were miserable, bloody movements, just full of suffering. And when I finally went down to zero, straight from a whole ton of fiber to zero, that was when everything improved. And I think fiber might be the most insidious lie of all of them. The carb lie is bad, but there is a pathway metabolically for dealing with even a large amount of carbs for a short time. But there is really not almost anything to deal with fiber. It just does the damage it does as it goes through you, and it will continue to do damage. And if you're already inflamed, everything that it does is not getting fixed. It's not getting repaired at that time. Also, the chronic eustachian tube dysfunction. If I can go back to that, I have it written down here. I'm having an issue. I found one of the tubes when I was cleaning out my ears the other day because I have to clean out from um, the mucus sometimes as it drains. I think now that I've really been on this for, oh, honestly, at this point, I've been on carnivore long enough that I've lost track. It's had to have been 2 or 3 months. I think they're starting to actually heal because they were supposed to fall out, and the natural cycle is after about a year and a half to maybe 2 years, they fall out and they heal. And usually the hole closes. So I'm having a little bit of a backup issue, but the tubes fell out when they never had before over years. I've had those tubes in since 2019, and now they've done that, and I I can hear a little bit better. Uh, that's something that's really been dreadful because when you have chronic eustachian tube dysfunction and the uh, the fluid builds up, it can be really disturbing. Uh, you can hear your pulse, your heartbeat. You can hear it every time it hits. And then if it's built up and you have no way of draining it, I mean, I would hear my pulse all day, all night, every day for weeks at a time at the worst before I got the tubes and all that. Uh, it can be really bad because then you also stop being able to hear people. You suddenly are deaf like an 80-year-old. It's just, it's probably, it's not the worst thing I faced, but it's perhaps the most annoying on a daily basis because when I do well, it goes away, but when I do badly, well, everybody knows if I've made a mistake on my diet because I'm immediately not able to hear people the next day.
Wow, so
Um,
the result's pretty
yeah,
swift.
for me, yeah, it can swing back and forth, on a dime essentially. I mean, at least for what most people talk about on here. For me, it really can swing. One day I can hear poorly because I ate something I shouldn't have, and it doesn't need to be much. It doesn't even need to be a whole bunch of carbs. It could be something spicy like hot sauce or something like that. And the inflammation, because the eustachian tube is around the top of your throat because it drains from here down. So if I have bad acid reflux from anything and it irritates that section in there, now forgive me if I'm anatomically not 100% here, but if it irritates that section, they'll close up and it won't be, oh, I'll wake up. I'll know by the evening, by the time I go to bed, if I'm not going to be able to hear the next day. And then if I'm good for the entirety of the next day, I might start to retain my hearing or return my hearing by the end of that day, like the next day. Um, what I really came on here for, my big medical issue that, because you had the AJ Rektansky interview, and he said you should get a sleep apnea guy on here, somebody who's going through the issues with the sleep apnea right now. And I am. He wasn't kidding about it taking a long time. It has taken me well over a year to get a referral and get everything situated so that I can have another sleep study. Because after long enough, what they want you to do is get re-diagnosed with it altogether. And there's the companies that do the home sleep apnea that'll be based on your finger. They'll put a little ring here, your oxygen and such. It's nothing more than a pulse oximeter. It is not a reliable test. It is only for people with really bad sleep apnea who've never been diagnosed before. And it's cruel to make somebody who has sleep apnea already use that because then they have to sleep without the machine or the test won't work at all. That was an impossible feat for me. So my money got taken from the copay, and the company just returned a result of no sleep apnea, even though I informed them that I didn't sleep at all and I couldn't sleep with the stupid ring on and my mask off. That was a fight that delayed me by about 6 months. It's really miserable working with insurance and sleep apnea. He mentioned he broke a mask and it took him a long time to get another one. You can buy the mask yourself. I've had to do that, but they're extremely expensive for the injection molded plastic that they are. Like everything to do with CPAP is super expensive. This small machine that might be the size of my head, which is if I remember correctly, about the entirety of the parts are an air pump, a pressure sensor, the hose, a heating element for the reservoir for the distilled water so that it can humidify and you don't dry out, which it never works very well. That's about the sum of the parts. There is a little bit of data collection uh, in there, like a little bit of a data collection device in there, but otherwise there's not much to it, and they want 1,000 or more dollars for it. And a device to clean it is usually several $100s. Otherwise, every morning you get up, you have to take the entirety of everything off the machine. That has to be your first thing, or else you are going to get um, a bunch of acne and stuff. And you're going to get the acne either way because that thing is just pressed up against you and the oil stay on your face all night. That's been an improvement. You might be able to see a little bit of something here from one of my straps, but otherwise, that's a big improvement. Those kind of go away pretty quickly. But every morning you have to get up, you have to clean it, and then you have to make sure you clean it and wash it out with distilled water because there are residues, minerals, and such in regular tap water. You can wash it with tap water, but you have to rinse it out and then dry it using only distilled water. Because not only is there the um, sediment and such, there's also those little amoebas that can be very dangerous if they get into the triangle of death, as they call it. So those can be really miserable. It's just a miserable experience using a CPAP machine at all. I think most people fall behind on the maintenance because it is a chore, a daily chore just to do it, and you have to do it first thing, or you're just never going to remember. And it's extremely difficult to dry out uh, a 6 foot hose. Some people might have the smaller 3 foot hose. I don't think they sell anything shorter because otherwise you're just going to pull it off the nightstand. But it's an entirely miserable and super expensive experience that is gate kept, and they want it gate kept because it is extremely profitable. Everything about it is extremely profitable. The things that you would imagine in any other context would cost a handful of dollars, 10, 20, maybe 30 at most, will cost you $100 or more with a CPAP machine. Um, and we're not talking about masks and such that are overly expensive or well engineered. We're talking things you can get at Walgreens, but they're going to be 140, 200, maybe even $300. It's a really miserable experience having a CPAP machine. There's a lot that goes to it because it's dangerous forcing air like that into your nostrils because any contaminants, they just bypass your natural defenses as fast as possible. You're just shooting bacteria, amoeba, dust, everything down it. And then there's the little thing in the back of my head that tells me, what if an insect crawls into this and I can't get it? It's just a weird little fear I've had the entire time I've had it. What if an insect crawls in and I don't notice it? So I'm checking for insects inside of this thing every night just to make sure I can go to sleep without fear of getting a spider or something shot down my throat. Sorry. I guess that's about all I have to say about that. It's a really frustrating situation to have a CPAP machine and deal with that all the time, and especially deal with everything they say that you should deal with regularly.
Do you feel like over the last couple of years your sleep has improved at all? Like, do you feel like even though you're still using the machine, there could be light at the end of the tunnel?
Oh, yeah, actually, I'm getting reevaluated. Because after you spend enough time with the machine, especially a machine that you hate that much, you've figured things out about it. There are ways to um, jailbreak it where you can decide your pressure, and I've had to lower my pressure several times. I should also say that people tend to be your primary care physician tends to be very careless with the way they prescribe things. Ultimately, they prescribe your pressure unless you see a sleep doctor specifically. When I did it, it was common for your PCP to just go ahead and prescribe the pressure after he got the results, even though they don't understand a lot about it. I recently had to go get my sleep apnea report or my sleep study report from my first diagnosis, and take it to my new physician, which I like a lot. Great guy. I enjoy the new sleep doctor I have. But I read through the report and they never were able to get a therapeutically satisfactory result from any of the titration. Titration is when they adjust the pressure. Um, but he still gave me a pressure. He didn't give me the highest pressure. He didn't give me the lowest pressure. He just gave me what seemed to be an arbitrary pressure. He also never informed me that I was diagnosed with narcolepsy, which is just reading all that and seeing how carelessly I was taken care of. It's bothersome. But now I'm getting reevaluated, and one thing I've noticed is that the sleep apnea machine may be causing several problems. People don't understand that over time, if you lose weight, I lost 250 pounds over time since I've had that original pressure assigned to me. Um, it can give you issues. I'm hoping to get some more relief with my acid reflux, which has gotten better just being on carnivore. It always gets somewhat better. Unlike Ken Berry, who, God bless him, is lucky. I wish I was as lucky that it would just disappear like his did. Mine's not disappearing. It's a daily thing, but I think it may be caused by the overpressure of CPAP. I have a lot of issues with gas and gaseous emissions throughout the day that are most prominent in the morning. And from my reading, I believe they're being caused by the CPAP. I also believe my acid reflux may be being caused by the CPAP because as that gas tries to find its way out, it can cause a lot of issues with your stomach acid, and I can often push that stomach acid up. I've had episodes where I'll have a large burp, but also acid will come all the way up, and I mean it'll be at the back of my tongue. It'll be That's when it's most painful is when it gets all the way up into your mouth and you can taste it, and there's this indescribably sour, bitter, metallic taste from it. It's just purely disgusting. And then you have to sit there, even when you drink water to try and get rid of it, you can feel the acid burning at the back of your throat. And when that happens, I'll just feel more gas move its way up. So it's bad, and I think it's caused by the CPAP machine. And I'm getting reevaluated, and I know for sure that I don't need as much pressure because, unlike before, I can fall asleep without it now. Um, there are times where I will just fall asleep, and no CPAP needed. My wife says I snore, but I don't snore like I used to a long time ago, and I really do feel like it's improved. I feel like I've gotten a lot of relief from that. Um, I hope to get more relief. And I guess that's all I have to
Y
say about that.
yeah. Um, so, are you currently taking any medications? Like, have they tried to put you on omeprazole or anything like that for the acid reflux?
Yeah. So like I said, they gave me a bunch of medications. I've tried all kinds of things. Famotidine. Uh, there was one point where I was taking pantoprazole, 40 milligrams, which is not that much, but then also taking upwards of 600 milligrams of cimetidine, which is another form of famotidine. Chemically very similar, but it's usually not prescribed. It's something you can find in larger amounts, but it's a cheap drug that a lot of people with acid reflux might be familiar with. And my doctor gave me what amounted to a prescription, which was just go buy some at the store and use it. And at the same time, I'd also be using Gas X and what is it? Essentially Tums, just generic Tums, all of that to try and combat acid reflux, and it not work. But the acid reflux, I learned to live with it. It's not that bad most of the time, especially now. Right now, I don't take the pantoprazole anymore. I don't take the omeprazole anymore because it's all just stopped being effective. Um, I don't really take any of it anymore, and it's
Right,
become tolerable only after being on carnivore for a while.
right. So daily, you're just eating, like, the meat for breakfast? That's pretty much all you're eating?
Um, yeah, there was a brief time where I became concerned just a little bit about my potassium levels. I don't know why. I was just having some issues that could have been related to the GERD. And I had about 4 ounces of white mushrooms a day because it was the only thing I could find where they're not allowed to use things like glyphosate and so forth on it. I think maybe the most dangerous thing in it is a carotene, but mm, something like 80 or 90% of that's destroyed when you cook it. and it seemed to agree with me. It wasn't bad, at least, but then I just kind of realized I didn't need it, and I kept moving on with that. But otherwise, it's just meat, whatever meat that I can really find that I mostly just look for sales.
Um, so when are you going for when are you having the next sleep test? In about a month?
Sooner than that, thankfully. Yeah, about December 1st. It's been some time, and I'm really thankful to go get that done.
Mm.
So, yeah, December 1st will be when I have the sleep study done, and I'll probably write into you at least. I don't know about it'll take time before I know anything about the long-term results of it, do any kind of update.
Yeah, I'd be interested if maybe you could come back on in 3 months or 6 months' time and let us know how things are going.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. Um, that was part of why I did this is to I really don't want to be on camera or talking to anybody, especially with this stupid missing tooth of mine that embarrasses me every day. But um, I wanted to hold myself accountable, and I figured my story was one that you'd want to follow. So if I come back on here and I'm bloated up more than I already am, uh, in 6 months or so, and I'm just like, well, Dave, it didn't work. I'm a cupcake monster again, Dave. Oh man, they increased my pressure and everything. I think I'm just gonna roll into the grave. If I come back with that, well, and then I suppose let the blows fly. You know, fire the shots at that point.
Yeah, so, yeah, it would definitely be, awesome to have you back on, but, it does from what you've said, it does feel like things are slowly moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I think so too. Um, about the right direction. I this isn't like the first time I've tried this, and the carnivore thing is something that like I'd heard about, but I never really wanted to do because, and this may sound strange, I really enjoy tomatoes. I enjoy, or at least I did. I don't know anymore. Just sliced raw tomatoes with a little bit of salt, and that was kind of like a treat back when I was younger. Something that I kept doing, and there were just a few plant things I really didn't want to let go of at all. Um, my family always had a big garden, and the gardening thing was kind of like an identity thing. And then I have my own home now, and I wanted to be able to do gardening like my old man. And there was a lot of emotional connection to all these things, and I really didn't want to give it up. I tried it on and off, and it would always fix things, and then I would fall off as soon as I started to feel better. Now, not so much because I'm just deciding I'm in it for the long haul. I don't I don't want to go back, no matter how much it feels, no matter how sad it feels sometimes. I don't want to suffer again. I don't want to be depressed. I got depressed at one point where, I think a lot of people who walk around and talk about depression, they don't really understand because they're like, I'm sad. Oh, I don't feel motivated. There is a depth of depression where it's not just about not feeling good. It's not about being sad. It's not about not being motivated. It's a void, a complete void of feeling. You just kind of exist. You're breathing. You're not sure why, but you don't even question it because you don't even care about that. Um, there can be times like that, real bad, and I don't want to go back to any of that, because I know that if I do those things, I'll eventually, if I eat those things, I mean, I'll eventually go back to that kind of state, that living, and I'd rather be alive. And at least if I'm alive, I'd rather be present for it. Sorry, I think I
Yeah.
lost the plot on the question there.
No, no, that's fine. Um, so based on the experience you've had, do you think it's better with carnivore to just jump in and rip the Band-Aid off and do it, or kinda transition in slowly?
I think it depends on who you are. If you're really sensitive and you're suffering every day, don't bother with this tiptoeing crap. You're gonna tiptoe around, and if you're sensitive enough and bad enough, you're having enough problems, this may take time. I mean, I unlike a lot of people on here that you've interviewed and I've heard their stories and they talk about when they got fat. I was fat from the age of 5. That was the first time I realized I was much bigger than other kids. And I stayed that way. I'm under my high school weight at 425 because my high school weight was somewhere around 470 in my senior year. Um, I've been a very big boy for a very long time. But like I said, if you're super sensitive, just go at it. If you're not, if you're somebody who's just saying, maybe I want optimal health, wedge yourself in, see how it feels. But if you want really to fix your problems that you may have been working to cause for a long time, the sooner you start and the sooner you get it done, well, I say get it done, but the sooner you start, the sooner that you're going to feel better. And I kind of do have some faith at this point that I'm actually going to improve more and that a lot of these issues will disappear because they have before. The problem is I was just a stubborn ass. So I really do think that it will improve. And if you run into any stalls, I've had a lot of weight stalls, even on keto and so on and so forth. Don't sweat that. Don't worry about that at all. The weight is a minor issue. Um, you'll get through it. You're not going to stall forever unless you're doing something really wild, like drinking a whole bunch of milk or just way, way over consuming calories. But even when you stay at the same weight, people say it, and you think to yourself, that can't be true. That, oh, you'll still lose inches on your waist. You will. You really will. I've before I went down to 425, I stalled at about 440, and strangely enough, I dropped 4 pant sizes before I went down again. Um, Another thing, I don't know if it'll be able to show, but if you can see that, I've never seen neck muscles in my life on me. Not in my whole life. Not. I was I always had a fat neck, and it's still fat. It's just now I can actually see part of it. Like there are things that will change about your body that take time. When you stall, your body is trying to work something out, and you just have to give it time to finish working it out. You can't rush this whole process. You're going to freak out the first 1 or 2 times. Even if you hear me say this, you're going to do it. And you're going to ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? How can I tweak this? Because that's what we do. Everybody's all biohackers these days. But I think the truth is, biohacking might be bullshit. I don't think all this content about trying to uh, fine tune the minutia of your health is all that helpful unless it convinces somebody to just give this a try, to like at least get somewhere near what I don't like to be presumptuous and could be wrong in the future, but I think maybe the optimal diet are really close to it. Um, Obviously, there's a pathway for carbohydrates in our body, and it's there for a reason during times of starvation. But do people realize there's also a pathway for alcohol? Is alcohol necessary when you're starving? Do you really need alcohol all that much? People talk about carbohydrates being the favored fuel of your body because it's processed before fat, but do you realize your body processes alcohol first? Alcohol is the first thing. If you shove a, let's say, a rum cake, which it really is soaked in rum, into your mouth, the fat's going to be processed last, the carbohydrate second, and the alcohol is going to be processed first. It will stop every part of the metabolic process to get the alcohol processed.
That's a really good point. When we think about people saying, "Oh, glucose is the preferred source of fuel for your body," it's like, well, if that's the case, actually alcohol is the preferred source of fuel for your body. It might be that your body's trying to get rid of the toxins, not that it's trying to use glucose for fuel.
Yeah, no, that's what I believe. I'm pretty certain of it, that it's taking the most inflammatory things and processing them as fast as possible to limit the damage to the body. Because yeah, you can. I mean, obviously, people get fat on just beer all the time, so yeah, you can absolutely use the caloric intake from alcohol to survive a little bit longer. So there's a point that it's there. I imagine, isn't there like a small amount of alcohol in most fruit that we don't pay attention to once it comes off the vine and ripens? Isn't there some process? I think pretty much anything with sugar in it that begins to sit and ferment, it's a nicer word. We'll go with ferment, produces some level of alcohol, and your body has to be able to deal with that. If it were in you, if you took it in and it just killed you, then no, we never would have eaten a single fruit in the entirety of our existence.
Yeah. So, Bryce, if people want to reach out to you, is there any way they can get in contact? Do you have any social media or anything else?
No, thank you though. But like I said, I was hesitant to do this, mostly to keep myself accountable, and also maybe somebody out there will say, well, that fat boy, he got it done, so maybe I can too. And he complained the whole way, and he had to literally beg God to stop him, but he got there. So that's where I want to be. The guy that people say, what a train wreck, but that train wreck made it to the station.
No worries. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And I look forward to catching up in a few months and talking again. Thank you very much, Bryce.
Thank you.